Hello again. Hope everybody's doing well. So today what we're going to do is this is an answer video. So I've assigned the assignment, the due date is passed, and now I'm giving you the answers so you can go through, think about what we talked about and hear my thought process of where you should be and what you should know. And if you have questions, always reach out to me, no problem. So if you look down here, what we're going to go through today is the answers for, this would be in our book, this would be called Lesson 3 and Lesson 4 assignments. So that's what we're doing today. So first thing that you had was the handout where you had to talk about 4 questions, I believe, right here. So these were the first things you needed to know. So first of all, describe the path of a protein molecule from the place where they're produced all the way to the place where they are used in the cytoplasm. So let's take a look at the answer here. The protein molecule will leave the nucleolus and goes to the Golgi. So you could say nucleolus to the Golgi, where it is stored. You can say stored. Then it's going to go to the endoplasmic reticulum. Then used in cytoplasm. Normally can be used in lots of places. Remember when we were talking about cell membranes, they had proteins in them as well. So these proteins aren't just used in the cytoplasm, they're distributed through the cytoplasm at the end. Now we're going to look at question 2. I'm going to hold this up so I can look at you. If the endoplasmic reticulum is the transportation system of the cell, then the Golgi complex is the warehouse and packaging system. Explain this statement, sponsored by Amazon. No. But you can see the Golgi packages and stores materials. The ER transports these packed and stored proteins around the cell to where they are needed. Because a warehouse does packing just like the Golgi apparatus packages and stores these molecules. Pretty easy, but it's a cool analogy. You might have a bonus assignment coming up pretty soon where you're going to make cell analogies. So this is a good question to kind of activate. Like, okay, what would these things be like? Like, what would a cell be like if it was a school? What would a cell be like if it was a factory? The walls would be the membrane. Maybe the office would be the nucleus. The garbage bins would be the lysosomes and things like that. So start thinking about weird analogies of a cell, because we might have a kind of fun diagram drawing kind of assignment where you make connections for what you know about cells and transfer it to other random things just as a thought experiment. It's a kind of cool project. Most kids like it. Number 3, if you were looking it up, what part of the nucleus replicates itself in part of the reproductive process? Chromosomes. This is where we're going soon, folks. These chromosomes coming up in the next few weeks, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about mitosis and meiosis, and it's all about DNA and chromosomes replicating and splitting and pairing and mixing and matching. So it's good to know right there that the nucleolus, the part that replicates itself, is the chromosomes. And the last question, why is the packaging of proteins in the Golgi complex an important part of the cell's function? So we have proteins when the cell needs them. We got to get those where we need them, when we need them, or else the cell can be in serious trouble. All right, so that was pretty easy. The next stuff's not too bad either. I'm going to post these notes. We'll do a little chit-chat, and you could see. Now, the next sheet is that one right there. So let's talk. I didn't write the structure, but what can we say? Let's do that together. So the function of the nucleus is the brain or control center. I would say the nucleus is a main, large, central mass with an eye in it. That's how I would describe the structure. Contains the nucleolus, which contains genetic material as well. The plasma membrane, you could also just call that the cell membrane. That's what we call it. But see, you've got to be used to different diagrams, different illustrations, different terminology that all mean the same thing. So get comfortable with that. You might see plasma membrane, you might see cell membrane, etc., etc. Don't get panicked. Every term that you have heard so far to date in this class is what we're talking about. There's no new stuff coming up, so it might be worded slightly different, but that is part of science. You've got to be fluent in this language. Next up, we have the, how would we say the plasma or cell membrane is? What would we say? Well, it's the doorway. It controls the substances passing in and out. It's the gatekeeper. And I would say it is a thin phospholipid bilayer around the entire cell. I would add that in there maybe. The endoplasmic reticulum, remember what that looks like? The ER looks very similar to the Golgi, but it's always right beside the nucleus. And it's going to have a rough patch with some ribosomes, and it's going to have a smooth patch closer. So what is the endoplasmic reticulum look like? I would say it is a series of folds very close to the nucleus, where I would say its description or what it looks like. And its job is the transportation system of the cell. It carries proteins around the cell. Next up, we've got our friend the mitochondria, and everybody knows that it's the powerhouse of the cell. It's the one thing you always memorize. And what would I say? Small, maybe flattened oval shapes with, I don't know if squiggles is the right one you want to use, but it could be points or squiggles inside. I normally say it's like a pill shape with squiggles, and it is the powerhouse of the cell. That's where cellular respiration occurs. You might want to have that. Cellular respiration occurs in the mitochondria. It's the powerhouse. Next up, the Golgi apparatus. Well, it's very similar in description. A series of folds floating freely in the cytoplasm, not next to the nucleus. Packages and stores material, we just talked about that. And the cytoskeleton, the bones of the cell, it gives the cells support and structure. And that is something that wasn't very clear in the notes, and it was a little bit tricky. So if you didn't get that one, don't worry. We're going to learn more about the cytoskeleton, and when we look at real slides here, let's see, you can actually see some cytoskeleton, like the little kind of tubes that kind of look like they're keeping the cell floating out. That's actually a little bit of an example of the cytoskeleton. It's almost like veins within the cytoplasm, but not a super important term. That's why it's at the bottom. Next up, we are going to be moving to the diagram. Oh, excuse me, that's the bell. I'm teaching through a lunch break here. Nice. We're going to look at the diagram of the animal cell. Let's put up an animal cell while we're at it. Why not? There we go. Hey, but that's not the same diagram as the one in the book. Yeah, get used to it, folks. So, here we are. There's your answers. I don't know if I need to say them all, but you can see them all, I believe. Yes. So, ER, always close, series of folds. And remember, Golgis look very similar, but they're not attached. Lysosomes generally have nothing in them. They're clear. Centrioles, that's a new thing. You don't really have that anywhere yet. So if you didn't get that one, don't panic. But it kind of looks like little barrels. And when we talk about cells growing and dividing soon, centrioles is going to be very important. They could be called centrosomes, centromeres, centrioles, different parts of the same idea thing. So don't get panicked when you see these words. We'll clear it up for you very soon. The cytoplasm is the everything else. The little dots in the cytoplasm here, these would be ribosomes. That's the membrane. We know it's not a wall because a wall only happens in a plant cell, and there'd be another layer around this if it was a wall. Mitochondria, the pill with the squiggle. Nucleus is the whole area. See how it's pointing to just the general whole thing? Chromosomes are the genetic material. That's a new term. Wait, where did we get that? Well, you had to infer a little bit. Don't panic. We're going to have it covered. And the nucleolus is the eye of the nucleus. Moving on to the diagram of the plant cell. Let's change that up here, right? Once again, slightly different picture. First thing I want you to know is that the vacuole in a cell, in a plant cell, is giant. You might think, but the biggest thing is always the nucleus. No, vacuoles are clear, and they're big here, right? So Large vacuole, that's a special thing about a plant. Cell wall, look how it's another layer on top of a membrane. That's really important. Wall, membrane. So cell wall versus cell membrane, which is just that little part right there. Now, we have the mitochondria, looks very similar. Ribosomes attached to the endoplasmic reticulum. Cell membrane, cytoplasm, nucleolus, the eye of the nucleus. The nucleus doesn't point to anything in specific, it just points to everything in the nucleus. Chromosomes are those squiggly thread-like genetic information that if you stretched them out, they'd go football fields long. Endoplasmic reticulum, close to the nucleus, looks very much like a Golgi. And a chloroplast. I don't like this diagram of a chloroplast, I'm going to be honest. What I like is little pancakes in that. So this is a better example of a chloroplast than what you have down here on the sheet. But you gotta be flexible. All right. Now, we got some easy stuff. We got some... oh, I like that. So we've got the matching right here. And then the next sheet will be the fill in the blanks. So let's see the matching. Thick surface structure that gives shape and support to the plant cell. That's going to be the wall. A control center. We know that's going to be the nucleus. Release energy. Energy is always powerhouse, which is the mitochondria. Factories for building proteins. The ribosomes make proteins. You're like, proteins are made here, they're done here, they're stored there, they're moved to here. Yep, proteins are important. So you got to get comfortable with that. What makes them, what stores them, what transports them. Get comfortable with that. So building proteins, ribosomes, roadways for moving. That's going to be, obviously the roads are the endoplasmic reticulum. Manufacture ribosome parts, the nucleolus. Sticky semi-fluid material, that's going to be your cytoplasm. Contain digestive enzymes, that means like breaking things down. The garbage men of the cell, digestive, and I don't mean like, I'm hungry. I mean like, this is waste, we got to break it up and get rid of it. That is lysosomes. That's something you got to get comfortable with, right? You're going to need this information for the next assignment, folks. So, like I said, the next assignment is the most challenging one. You're going to have to take all of your resources, all of your definitions, all of your examples, and kind of combine them into something that's a little vague, where you're going to have to infer a little bit. So keep this on hand. Lysosomes break down, clean the stuff. They're getting rid of they're digesting waste in the cell and getting it out. Encloses the cell's genetic material, would be the nuclear membrane. Storehouse for excess water, well, that's going to be a vacuole. And remember, in a plant, a vacuole is big. In an animal, a vacuole is small. Green organelles found in plant cells where photosynthesis takes place. That is the chloroplast. Next up, packaging useful materials and secreting to the outside of the cell, the Golgi bodies. That's an interesting definition. You might want to remember that one. Strands within the nucleus to form chromosomes are chromatin. A little bit too much information there, a little too detailed. If you didn't get that one, don't feel too stressed out. Holds the contents of the cell together. H, cell membrane, right? And that's in a plant and an animal. Holds, hereditary material that carries the genetic code, and we know that. That's DNA. We haven't really read that anywhere, though, but you know what DNA is, and you know what DNA does, so... Let's go to the fill in the blanks. The cytoplasm is the semi-fluid portion of the cell in which the cell parts are located. The nucleus is referred to as the headquarters of cell operations. The structure found in plant cells but not in animal cells that carries out photosynthesis is the chloroplast, boroplast. Proteins are manufactured in the ribosomes. The structure that surrounds the cell and regulates what enters and leaves the cell is the cell membrane. Nicknamed the powerhouse of the mitochondria. We know that one. The nuclear membrane surrounds the nucleus and controls what enters and leaves it. Lysosomes are structures that contain digestive enzymes. In addition to a cell membrane, plant cells also have a cell wall that provide, that's important, strength and support. Storage chambers within the cell are called vacuoles. Found mostly in animal cells, the centriole plays a role in cell division. the cell structure that prepares and packages proteins. We know what that's called. It's going to go to the Golgi apparatus. Located within the nucleus, the nucleolus is involved in making ribosomes. Among other tasks, remember, so look at, well, 1 second, let's pause here. The nucleolus inside the nucleus makes the ribosomes. Okay, but those ribosomes then go out, and those ribosomes then make the protein. So it's nucleolus makes ribosomes, ribosomes go make the protein. Kind of cool. Among other tasks, the endoplasmic reticulum serves as the transportation system within the cell. Another name for DNA material located within the nucleus of the cell is the chromatin. Here's a tip. When I get you to do this bonus assignment where you have to make an analogy of if a cell was a school, or if a cell was a factory, or if a school was a cell was a business, or if a cell was a restaurant, this sheet will really help you decide what you want to make your cell, your factory, your school look like if we assign that assignment later on. Might be a review assignment for fun. So that's everything for now. Coming up is going to be lesson and assignment 5. It's going to be the most challenging one. I have a lot of students because you really have to kind of stretch and look at all your notes to put it together. So if you're not doing too great on the next lesson, don't panic. We're going to explain it. And I'm going to tell you the really important stuff and the stuff that was a little bit higher level that you might be having a little bit of time with. Like I said, I want to show you this from multiple different ways. So I hope you enjoyed this answer session. If you have more questions or you have something you want to talk to me about, just reach out and we will be doing lesson and assignment 5 coming up next. Take care.